Alright, in this video we will be over-analyzing the 7 Silksong locations, and we will be ranking them based off the enemy encounter, bosses, and aesthetics of the area. I've combined some of the areas we don't have a lot of footage for, such as the swamp, so they don't get placed lower unfairly. Let's get to it. Starting off with the Moss Grotto, the area in which you begin the game with. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, since in Hollow Knight you begin your journey at King's Pass before making your way over to the Forgotten Crossroads, where you fight your very first boss. While in Silksong, you can reach the very first boss within your starter location fairly quickly. This makes me wonder if Moss Grotto will be that much of a big area to begin with. Is what I would say if it wasn't for this clip. In this shot, we can see that the outside word has a crack on the top. Now, this might not seem a lot to you, but this means that we are likely in a small cave or church. You know, because the church keeper is there, and may take care of churches, like a church keeper. And once we leave, we will be able to explore a much big open area, much like Elden Ring. Anyways, in terms of bosses, we have seen 2 that are confirmed, and 2 that are less confirmed. First up, we have the Moss Mother, whose boss fight seems to be very similar to Greymoor. Her first attack, she charges at you, sorta like Vengefly King. In her second attack, she hits the ceiling, causing either rocks or her moss children to fall out. And that pretty much summarizes her movesets. I can't be too picky about this boss, since it quite literally is the very first boss you're supposed to fight in Silksong. As for the second boss, he's not actually confirmed, but he does have 2 appearances in the Moss Grotto and the Forest of Bones. His design looks very similar to the enemies of Deep Docks, which is why we will go over him when we go over the Deep Docks. Now for this third boss, it's pretty weird, because we don't know if he's a boss, an enemy, or even if he's supposed to be in the game. When you start the game, if you head over to the right instead of heading left, there's a secret room with a giant enemy that screams and rolls onto you. There's no footage of him being beaten, so there's nothing much we can really say about him. We also have whatever this thing is, which some people actually mistake for a boss. But if it really was a boss, would they really put platforms for you to hide under it? And when you get in the room, it doesn't even get locked. And in basically every Hollow Knight boss fight, your arena is locked. One last character I want to talk about is the Witch. Something really interesting I've seen about her is that she actually looks a lot like this removed Hollow Knight charm. Now, usually I wouldn't connect unused content to Silksong, but another unused piece of content in Hollow Knight is this enemy, who looks awfully close to this one enemy in Moss Grotto, which means that they do use their unused assets, so I wouldn't actually be too surprised if they had something in common. Now up next we have the Deep Docks in the Forest of Bones, and I don't know if this is just me, but from all the footage that I've seen so far, the area looks like it's going to be very platform focused, since there are many bells and enemies where you can pogo off, there are multiple moving platforms and lava falling bits, and hot cold that you can't walk on but can only run on to not take damage, and there's even one of those lava rising levels straight up from Celeste. One thing I want to talk about in the Deep Docks is the NPCs, since there are only 3 NPCs in Silksong that we have the dialogue for, and all 3 of them are in the Deep Docks. First up, we have the Forge Daughter, and before I even talk about her, just look at that pose. I can immediately tell you do not want to mess with them. An interesting piece of dialogue that the Forge Daughter shares is that the enemies around the area are useless for compensation, but their work still continues, which means that Farloom is infected just like Silksong, except in maybe a different way that we still don't know about yet. Aside from that, to be honest, the Force Daughter doesn't share anything too unique yet, so there's not much else to say about their dialogue. The Nintendo Treehouse also mentioned this.
And she actually introduces another interesting crafting mechanic that we can't show too much about just yet.
By that I mean she meant that you can craft tools with the Forge Daughter, but don't take my word for it, for all we know we could be crafting with a crafting table. She also has a minion, and if you talk to him, she just says talk to the boss. And you can also beat him, and she'll just start laughing, which is pretty rude. We also have this guy. Hornet says to him, "What is this you're building? A sign of some kind?" This pretty much confirms that Mender Bug will be in Silksong. Once you finish the Silksong demo, you meet Lace. She pretty much offers to kill you as a way to end your pain and suffering. But after you kindly decline, she starts fighting you. Lace is a little fencer wielding a gilded pin, the traditional weapon of Farloom. Lace is a dangerous foe cloaked in mystery who will delight at causing Hornet's swift, skewered demise. Or at least that's what the Team Cherry late anniversary celebration post says about her. There's not much else to say about Lace. She will have a big role in Silksong, and I actually think that she'll be the equivalent of Hornet in Silksong, but only time will be able to tell. Once you beat her, she dashes away, pretty similar to how Hornet dashes away in Hollow Knight, which is pretty funny. You also do fight her again later on, which is something to note. Now this is one of the most visually stunning areas we've seen in Silksong so far, and it is the Coral Forest. This area just has amazing vibes, since it feels like you're underwater when you really aren't. And this is also one of the most colored areas in Silksong, especially since it doesn't have much competition. And yes, I am looking at you, Greymoor. Anyways, one weird thing about the Coral Forest is that the enemies here feel off. They don't match the environment at all. And from all the trailers that I've seen, the only one that matches the environment is the Coral King. It is a shame that there's no character that can explain this. Oh, hey Sharp. Sharp is a hunter from a distant land. He's tasked with eliminating Hornet, and he's not come alone. Sharp brings companions on his deadly quest. Who are they, and why are they pursuing Hornet? We'll leave you to guess at their full nature. Just know, Hornet's gonna be fighting for her life against this highly trained trio. Sharper is a Kickstarter boss from Japso Boardram. Jaspo proposed an assassin bug with a whip-like nose and several other unique talents. And remember, all other backer bosses and backer dungeons will be landing alongside playable Hornet. Or at least that's what the Team Cherry blogger post says. Now we know who these enemies are, but why are they in the Coral Forest? Well, I think I've just been overthinking this, since these enemies probably appear in multiple areas since they're hunting Hornet down. And as for the lack of enemies, it's simply because we don't have enough footage. And as for that one enemy from the Citadel, I think it's because the Coral Forest is connected to the Citadel, and he's just there because it's in a nearby area.
The Dark Forest is my personal favorite area. I like this area a lot because
Wait. Who the hell invited this guy?
It was you.
Oh wait, it was me? Why did I do that? Okay, whatever. I'm sure he's not gonna mess up and say anything stupid.
it kind of just represents Hollow Knight in a good way. It's kind of gloomy, but it also looks quite nice, and it has a silver lining, I guess, which is the ant colony, which seems to be living there. The Dark Forest seems to be a lot like Moss Grotto, which means it's probably going to be near it on the map because it looks pretty much exactly like Moss Grotto. Well, not like a bit different, but all the moss is dying. But there's also going to be like a separate area, almost like the hive maybe, which is going to be the ant colony inside of Dark Forest. So far, what we have, the footage suggests that there's one friend that we get to make there who kind of looks like Kratos, two bosses, which are both ants, one being the queen of the ants and another who's big and has a club. The area also just seems to be cool and fun. Like the enemies seem to be interesting and unique. And it also seems like the area is going to be connected to the swamp place, which is one of my most anticipated areas. I haven't seen anything like that. Like there wasn't anything like that in Hollow Knight, so I don't know. I'm just kind of interested to see what they do. I also think that there's a reason they haven't shown that much footage of it. I think it's probably because it's going to be later in the game that you actually get to get there. And I think that's a good thing. That just means there's going to be even more content if they don't want to show us that much yet and they want to keep it a secret. To be honest, I would love to talk more about this place, but there just isn't really that much footage that we have of it to go on.
As for Greymoor, Greymoor is it's gray. Anyways, the Citadel. There's many things I could talk about in the Citadel, like the Bell City and how they replaced the shopkeeper, and how the flying NPC is also an enemy, or the quest board which gives you quests, or the last judge. I could even talk about Grotto, a shopkeeper who gets locked up. I could talk about the desert room and many other things, but it was at this point that I realized that if we keep setting up expectations for what the game will be, and we share those expectations, we are less worried about what the game is and more worried about what the game will be. We aren't just in it for Silksong. We're in it for all the years of waiting and suffering. And maybe, just maybe, the real Silksong was the friends we've made along the way. And that was the video. Thank you to the people that watched all the way to the end. Subscribing would be kind of nice. I really wish I could talk more about Greymoor, but I ran out of time and I was scared of this video arriving after Silksong, which would not be very convenient, and I have other projects that I want to move on to. It's kind of ironic that I like Greymoor the most, and yet I talked about it the least. But yeah, thank you for watching. That's it. You've done it. You've watched the video.